Let's talk about one of my favorite topics, cost of goods. One of our CRMs flagged something in our clients' financials. Their cost of goods were over 70%. It's the highest it had been all year. And it was their biggest loss month, and they couldn't figure out why. So let's talk about how to diagnose your cost of goods, what to do about it, and even what it is and why it's important. So, first of all, what is cost of goods? You might see this as an acronym of COS, cost of service, or cost of goods sold, COGS, COGS. So COGS, COS, you can call it either one. What it means for a therapy practice is it means everything that it takes you to pay your clinicians to do the actual clinical work. So we would say the wages that you're paying, whether that's as a contractor, as an employee, flat rate, hourly percentage, doesn't matter. The wages, the taxes you have to pay as the employer, the benefits, 401k, health, PTO, sick time, training, and any admin time that you pay that therapist as well. What it does not include would be your admins, your rent, your advertising, your office supplies, your own pay. Cost of goods is just what do you have to pay all in for those therapists to do the sessions, do the work, and make the good work happen in the community that you guys are doing. Where should we be on this? We measure this as a percentage of revenue. So we say whatever your cost of goods are, we divide that by the revenue. So if you have $5,000 in therapist costs, we divide that by your revenue of $10,000, you have a cost of goods of 50%. Where do we want to be for this? Somewhere between 45 and 55% ideally, but really for sure under 60% of revenue. And that's not just me, that's across the industry. Most people you talk to will say, generally this should be below 60%, but the lower it is, the better. If it's more like 45, 50, 52, 53, that's going to be much better for the practice, much better for you. It's going to make profitability a lot easier. Now, if you're over that 60%, it's not the end of the world. All it means is that you're going to have to work a lot harder, do a lot more volume, a lot more sessions to get to profitability. The lower this is, the easier it is to make work. And I'll say there's other factors that come in here too. Like if your rate of reimbursement is higher, like if you're getting 200 a session rather than 120 a session, some of those things are going to all work in your favor or against you as well. So multiple things all factor in. But let's talk about this. So you look at this, you track it, which, by the way, tracking is the first step here, just figuring out what is my cost of goods. Most practices don't know that consistently. They might have like admin payroll in there, the owner's payroll might be in there, and it just is a messy number. So your first step really is just separate things out. What actually is my cost of goods? And can I really trust that number and have confidence in that? It's actually one of the hardest steps. And that's where when we come in with a new practice, that's something that we can do right away that's really helpful. Is just like, what actually is our cost of goods and can we confidently trust that number? So let's say you have your cost of goods number, you know what it is. Let's say it's like 62%. So now you need to ask yourself the question, why is this increased or is it always 62%? Because there's a couple things that can make that cost of goods spike. The most common one is in most people's kind of pay structures, they're paying 26 times a year, right? Every other week, you're paying 26 times a year. So what happens is twice a year, you have 3 pay periods in 1 month, just how the weeks fall. So on those months where you have 3 pay periods, you're going to have cost of goods that look way higher because you have 3 pay periods instead of 2. So that's one thing. Figure that out. If you're on biweekly payroll, where are the months that have the 3 payrolls? Is that why our cost of goods looks way higher? For example, your cost of goods might usually be like 58%, and then all of a sudden it looks like it's 70, right? It's very scary, but that's a very normal reason for that to happen. That's okay. That's the first one. Number 2, are we paying out bonuses? Like, did we have a bunch of bonus conditions get met that we paid out bonuses? Same thing with holidays. Did we have a bunch of holidays hit? Maybe this is in January, you just paid out holidays, Christmas, New Year's, or PTO. Maybe you're in the summer, tons of people are taking PTO. Are we paying out a bunch of that? So look at a payroll report, look at the breakdown of the pay and see, do you see those little lines for PTO, for bonus, for maybe a benefit payout, something like that. So look at all those. Those are probably the most common reasons. There's a couple others as well. Maybe you have new clinicians onboarding. Maybe there's some sort of bridge that you're paying them where maybe they're getting like a stipend before they're up to capacity, but they're not yet bringing in enough visits, right? Something like that. That can happen. Or maybe you have training costs, something like that. Okay, so those are some common reasons your COS might spike. But yeah, how do we really diagnose this? How do we really figure out why is our COS high? First of all, let's just look at a payroll report. Like I said before, go to your payroll provider, run a payroll report like a payroll summary or payroll detail, and figure out what's the breakdown here? What's causing that payroll to be higher? And yeah, why is it higher? Do we have bonuses? Do we have PTO? Do we have 3 pay periods? If you look through that, everything looks normal. It still is high. It's not PTO, it's not benefits, it's not anything else. Then you probably just want to figure out, let's look at our clinician productivity or utilization, to use a different term, right? Did our session count drop down and the pay is just kind of slowly catching up to that? Look from month to month, compare months. When we're looking at a profit and loss or payroll, we're looking month over month over month to try to see those patterns. So look at multiple months, see what's happening. And then finally, if you look at all that and you're not really noticing anything, it could be just that your pay structures are the problem. You could have a structural problem with your COS. And this is one of the most common things we see across practices is they're basically just have too generous of a pay structure. If your COS is consistently above 60%, your compensation model probably needs to get reviewed. What this means is that we need to look at it. You can use our clinician profitability tool, which I'll put a link below this video too. But you want to get to a by clinician level of data where you're seeing by clinician what's their profitability, what's their COS. If I make this adjustment, what happens? If I remove this benefit, what happens? If they do 80 visits instead of 60 visits, what happens? We're looking at all those pieces. So you're going to look at a couple things there, try to figure out if your structure itself is the problem. What you'll often see is that your lower productive therapist, someone who's maybe doing 20 to 40 sessions a month, are going to look less profitable than your therapists who are doing 60 to 80 sessions per month, though that's not always the case. So look at those, try to figure that out. If you have salaries, if you're paying therapists on a salaried model, you want to make sure they're hitting their goals, right? If you have someone on a salaried model and they're not hitting their break-even point, it's going to look real bad on the COS, right? So do kind of a quick view by therapist, who's profitable, who's not, which pay structure makes sense, and then you can start to make small tweaks if needed. Hey, we actually need to change this bonus, maybe this benefit is too expensive, all those things. This is pretty hard to do once those things have already been offered to your team, right? So the best time to do this is actually before you offer anything to your team. Best thing you can do is use this tool, figure out, does this pay structure make sense? Will we consistently be profitable? And then we can offer the benefits, the bonuses, the raises, whatever that is. If you offer those things and then realize they're not profitable, it's very difficult to go to your therapist and say, hey, we actually can't give you this anymore, or we need to change it. You can still do it, and you still should do it. And we've done that with lots of practices. But what's going to happen is your therapists are probably going to either just be frustrated or they may leave and you're going to have to start over with somebody new. But at the end of the day, if you're paying somebody over 60% consistently, it's going to be pretty hard to be in a profitable place. So take a look at these pay structures. If you're seeing yourself at a COS of 70, anything like that, that's telling you need to make urgent changes. If it's like low to mid 60s, hey, we should take a look at this. If you're in the 50s, you're doing great. Those are my back of the napkin benchmarks for you today. But take a look at this. One of the most important levers you can pull as a practice owner, and would definitely recommend checking out our video on the clinician profitability tool as well, which will walk you through how to use that. We also have a blog post on exactly how to use that, go through all that, so check that out as well.